I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for. I don't very much enjoy looking at paintings in general. I know too much about them. I take them apart. Georgia O'Keeffe, an American painter of the Southwest, was an innovative artist that left a lasting legacy in her art and her teachings. She is an inspiration to many artists as well as women.
As an infant, O'Keeffe already had a perception of lightness, darkness, and brightness. She also had an artist's eye for detail. At an early age, O'Keeffe was determined to become an artist. She is quoted at the age of 12 as saying, "I'm going to be an artist." Unfortunately, in the late 19th and 20th century, few options were open to women seeking a career as an artist.
In a time when it was not so common for women to be active in a professional sense, so I think that she broke new ground that way for not only women, but people and artists in general.
At this time, her mentor, Sarah Mann, helped O'Keeffe discover her exceptional artistic abilities. Sarah Mann was a local artist known for her watercolor art. One of O'Keeffe's teachers with most influence was Elizabeth May Willis, her principal and art director.
Later, in 1905 to 1906, O'Keeffe studied at the Art Institute of Chicago. At the time, it was unusual for women to attend art school. While O'Keeffe was still attending college, the women's suffrage movement was at its peak, and many of her friends were activists in this movement. Suddenly, while attending the Art Institute of Chicago, O'Keeffe was stricken with typhoid, the first of many obstacles in her life. In 1908 to 1909, O'Keeffe attended the Art Students League of New York. She finished her first year at the league with the award for Top Still Life Artist with her painting, Dead Rabbit with Copper Pot. While in New York, her art ranged from abstraction to representation, but her art always had its origins in nature. In 1910, her family's strained finances spurred her to drop out of college and take a job as a commercial artist in Chicago. Later that year, after the measles impaired her vision, she returned home to Virginia. However, O'Keeffe would not quit art despite her impaired vision. She was not going to let this affliction stop her passion for art. Later, in 1914, O'Keeffe attended Columbia University's Teaching College in New York, just before she ventured to Canyon in 1916. O'Keeffe enrolled in further study with Dow at Columbia. Although Dow was a serious painter, today Arthur Dow is remembered as an art educator, whose ideas were communicated to generations of American students and teachers, such as O'Keeffe. He integrated art and life and would hold tremendous appeal for her. He believed the goal of art was the expression of the artist's personal thoughts and feelings.
During the time she began leaning towards working with watercolors, she used the watercolors not to describe, but to capture and enhance the enthusiasm she had for the vast sky and landscapes she had experienced in Texas. This period marked the beginning of her interest towards the painting style that she would be known for the remainder of her career as an artist. Her paintings now contained more of both abstraction and representation. She began a series of abstract charcoal drawings, which are now recognized as the most innovative in all American art of that period. The drawings developed a personal language through which she was able to express her ideas and feelings. Later in life, she recalled, "I realized I had things in my head not like what I had been taught, not like what I had seen. Shapes and ideas so familiar to me that it hadn't occurred to me to put them down."
In April 1917, Stieglitz entered two of O'Keeffe's charcoal works in the Society of Independent Artists exhibition. That same month, he gave her her first one-person show at 291, an exhibit by Stieglitz. Around this time, the United States had been swept by war fever. The topic of war had always strained Georgia, but now it was starting to show through her work. In 1934, O'Keeffe decided to visit a place called Ghost Ranch. She couldn't resist the surrounding desert. Here she felt free of the dark mood the Great Depression brought upon her. While there, she collected shells, calico flowers, and bones. Her representation of hills, bones, crosses, and adobe were how she left her legacy in art. The bones symbolized O'Keeffe's personal expression of a mood that was widespread in the collapsed economy of the Depression. The Great Depression was an economic drop and affected not only the U.S., but other countries as well. Over 25% of Americans were unemployed, and it peaked at 33%. In 1942, as World War II escalated and rationing peaked, O'Keeffe moved into a smaller apartment, in case fuel needed to heat homes at the time became scarce. Due to the Great Depression, O'Keeffe found little inspiration. She would usually only add to her older pieces and expand on previous series, rather than create new ones. The few pieces she did produce contained darker tones and a presence of heavy emotion. While living in New Mexico, the unique regional style of adobe architecture took O'Keeffe's art to a whole new direction. Most of her innovative and iconic works were created here. Distinct flowers, glowing landscapes, and images of bones against a stark desert sky were all original contributions to American modernism. O'Keeffe's commitment to American modernism was what she described as the Great American Thing. She was determined to create an identifiably American modernism distinct to the popular European traditions. In 1949, O'Keeffe was honored to be elected to the Blue Ribbon National Society of Arts and Letters. She was accompanied by many other talented artists, but felt disappointed when she found out only 10% of the Institute's members were women. Between 1950 and 1973, O'Keeffe spent more time traveling, accepting honorary degrees and exhibiting the little amount of work she did create. After a few previous trips, in 1959, O'Keeffe decided to take a trip around the world. She created paintings that evoked a sense of the spectacular places she visited. Due to her failing eyesight, she was forced to abandon painting. She produced works of clay until her death in Santa Fe on March 6, 1986, at the age of 98.
Throughout O'Keeffe's life, painting was a way of expressing her personal desires and societal events. Her methods and visions are still seen today through modern artists. She accentuated the graphic power of photography into her paintings, capturing the scene in the way she only saw. By doing so, she found the needed acceptance in the closed world of fine arts as a woman. Doing so affected the way women artists are seen. She not only thought of herself, she wanted to change the widespread belief that women were only to be a housewife or occupying the lower professions. Women still have a long way to go, but O'Keeffe has been one of the powerful women to step up and rebel against common beliefs during her time and help women onto the road to equality. She has impacted the way art is created today and the way women artists are seen. She believed that art was supposed to be inspired by something you have seen or experienced from your surroundings, and created many beautiful and unique paintings. She was so passionate about painting, she even traveled around the world looking for inspiration when there was none to be found, with about 1,000 examples of her famous works throughout not only the country, but the world. Her art continues to inspire modern artists today.
I think Georgia O'Keeffe's legacy as an artist, as well as an independent spirit, will continue to have a legacy in the future, because what she represents as the mother of American modernism was that avant-garde and independent spirit that I think gives artists the freedom to experiment, to explore new subject matter, to take on challenges with respect to their use of media, and to forge ahead into the undiscovered. Well, she's still considered a leader because she was very instrumental in the formation of abstract art with her abandonment of the mimetic tradition, or in other words, representational art. And she used familiar subject matter, for example, flowers, but she interpreted them in an abstract visual language that spoke to her own individual interpretation of a very common subject matter. Art today would be different without someone like Georgia O'Keeffe in our past, because what she represented, again, was a willingness to experiment in a time when it was not so common for women to be active in a professional sense. So I think that she broke new ground that way for not only women, but people and artists in general.